Welcome everyone, my name is Paula Phillips, also known as JournalArtista, and I'm finally back with you today to share a new technique. Now I'm really excited about this. Well, you're going to see why. In front of you is this is a dilutions journal. We'll talk about those later. I have a little review. But, excuse me, I've got a new camera going on here, so you'll have to excuse some of that. So this is a Stencil girl, Stencil designed by Mary Beth Shaw, and this video is all about packing tape transfers using stencils. Now, packing tape transfer has been around for a long time, a long time, and so I thought, wait a second, there has to be a way to incorporate packing tape transfer using stencils. So ta-da! I'm so excited to show you. We'll look at more samples later because I've been working with this for a while in secret. So I've got lots to show you. But first, let's get to the technique. If you're not familiar at all with packing tape transfers, it's pretty straightforward. You take a magazine or a photocopy, you put packing tape on it, soak it in water, and rub it off. There you go. So incorporating a stencil at first seems pretty easy, and it is. But you know, as we go along, I'll tell you a few tips that that I've learned along the way. So this is out of a magazine. I think my wonderful friend Sherry sent it to me from Chicago. What I call hotel ephemera. So this is another Mary Beth Shaw stencil from Stencil Girl. And one thing I want to talk about stencils with this technique is that the finer stencil, if your stencil has very fine detail, for example, this pattern, let's look at it. These lines are very delicate, but because it's an overall bold pattern, it'll be okay. Another stencil, for example, this one, also from Stencil Girl, it has obviously tiny detailed lines, but in bigger spots. I'd be a little wary doing this technique with this stencil, because sometimes the packing tape is harder to get off, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So just an FYI on that, and let's get started. I don't know why I put that away, because this is the one I'm using. So we're going to take this particular stencil and I'm going to lay it over, again, whatever magazine image you want or something photocopied. The thicker the paper, the longer it takes to come off, the harder it may be to come off. So I like to use magazine images. Now different magazines will have different quality transfers depending on the ink that they use. So this is a cheap, very cheap book. It was obviously for the travel industry. So I'm going to take some packing tape, and here we go. This packing tape, it's actually supposed to be really good, but it's thin stuff. So if you can find the thicker width-wise of packing tape, the better. But this is the cheap stuff, and it works. So what I'm going to do is get a piece that's the width of what, and I'm going to use my teeth as tools. Terrible. And so I cut off a strip. This one happens to be about 12 inches because I'm using a 1/2 by 11 sheet of magazine paper. And what I'm going to do is lie it down over the stencil, which is on top of the paper, the image that you want transferred. And I'm just going to do that. Hopefully that's not too loud for you guys. Now whether you're doing a gel medium transfer, packing tape, you know, I know there's transfers out there with chart pack markers, all those goodness. You have to be okay with transfers are not a specific science. So you have to be okay with how it turns out. Now, the fun thing about using a stencil using a stencil on top of your image transfer is that you can get away with, I completely forgot what I was saying because I was worried about you guys, the tape being too loud. Let me think. What was I saying? Oh, talk about image quality. the one good thing about the stencil is that it will kind of hide some of those imperfections if you don't quite get the entire image off or whatnot. Okay, so I have 4 pieces of tape there, and I don't know if you noticed while I was chatting away, I did overlap them about 1/2 inch or 1 inch, and that's just so that I can take it all off in one piece. If, for example, I have another just random magazine image here, which I thought was funny. Anyway, if, say I didn't want to have any of the green, or maybe I just wanted the donuts, you don't have to do an entire stencil or entire 8.5 by 11 magazine page. You can do this technique on the smallest, you know, the smallest thing to something as big as you want. So I put down the tape over the stencil. I'm working on a self-healing mat, but you can use a craft sheet or table right off the bottom of the table, it doesn't matter. So I do overhang the stencil a little bit with the packing tape. I think that's really helpful when you're trying to peel back the tape off the stencil, because remember, you're peeling it off the stencil and the magazine image underneath. So I'm going to put this over there. I've got some water, and through the magic of YouTube, here's the water with a couple of images magazine pages that I've already have soaking here. So you do want to soak it in warm water. Sometimes I just put it in a sink. I have a little basin. Well, it's not a basin, it's a plastic shoe container. But you do want to soak it for, you know, 5 minutes. It all depends on, again, how the thickness of the magazine page. Obviously, say the O magazine is going to have thicker pages than the free Walmart magazine, which I used here. Okay, so I'm making a mess. It's a lot of water. It doesn't matter. So here I have, again, a Stencil Girl stencil, a Mary Beth Shaw design, and I actually put it over. It was a free magazine from Walmart. It's at the door. This one happened to be the Thanksgiving issue, so this is corn. And I thought it would be interesting. I primarily would use this magazine page, not because I necessarily want corn on my page, but because I really like the yellow. Anyway, so here we got a lot of water. I'm just going to soak up a little bit. Oh, move the camera with my paper towels. Okay, so here's the fun thing. So this is the right side up. This is the side that I put the tape on. This is the side that's the back, shall we say. So some magazines, if you're really lucky, you can just take this and peel it back, and it's going to come off by itself. Now, I find the cheaper the magazine, like this one was a free one, the easier it peels back. Look how awesome. So you can use this negative or positive. I always get that confused. Anyway, you can use this separately in your journal, and I'm going to set this over to dry. I just want to show you an example. Some of them, no, let's look at this real quick. There's an example of a magazine image. This happens to be a girl's face here, where I used that particular stencil, and this again is the leftover part from the transfer. I don't know if it's negative. Anyway, talking to myself. So this is the back side. I'm going to flip it over again. Now, it's all what's comfortable to you, because it can get pretty hard to peel off. So I started a corner. What I was saying was you can peel it off from the front, which is what I like to do, or you can try to peel off from the bottom. So don't worry, the tape, especially if you overlap your tape about 1/2 inch, it's stronger than you think it is. But just, you want to go slow. Don't worry about all the water. The water doesn't affect the tape. Water doesn't affect the tape, and we can dry it off, and then it retains its stickiness. It retains its stickiness, and you can put it right over your journal, your art journal page, or mixed media project, whatever you're doing. All right, that one worked out pretty easy. And again, the style of stencil you use is very important. This one doesn't have a very fine line, so it was easier than most, easier than some, I should say, to peel back up. So let me just wipe this up a little bit. And then, I usually work on a tea towel, actually, when I do this. You can let it dry. I just kind of for the sake of time, I'm going to just kind of sop this up. So what happens, not only do you have that cool other print, here is the transfer. So this happens, now you can use the green part, you can cut this up, you can overlay it as it is, or like I said, cut it up. So I'm just drawing it again, because what I'm going to do is take my art journal and flip to a page where I have a background. Alright, so I was working on this background, and you can see that it has a little bit of yellow. Well, no, you can't see where the yellow is. Anyways, regardless, I'm going to add yellow. So what I'm going to do is lay this over. And if, you know, it's not completely dry, so bear with me. When you're doing this at home on your own project, you want to make sure that it's completely dry so that it doesn't affect any of the paint that you have underneath. And you're going to brayer it. Ooh, one thing I didn't talk about was making sure when you're on this stage, making sure you brayer. I just brayer it a little bit to make sure that tape, especially on certain stencils, you want to make sure that the tape actually sticks to the magazine. Sometimes the thickness of the stencil can hold it up, can kind of hold the tape up and not have it touch the magazine. So that's important there. So I'll put that off to the side. So just laying this over, and it's easy to snip off this tape at the end. I won't bore you with that right now, but look how cool. And the fun thing about packing tape transfer is that it remains translucent. So what you see, let's see, you can see through the tape. Now this maybe not be the best example, but the yellow, I love how the yellow mixes with some of the colors in the background. Anyways, it's awesome. I'm absolutely addicted to this technique. I do have one more that we can go through. And I did want to talk about this because if you think outside the box on images or magazines to transfer from, you can get some really cool effects. So this happens to be a page, I think it was out of, I don't even know. I won't even guess what magazine it was out of. But as you can see, it's very light. There are some words there. I strategically placed her face in one of this, again, this is a Mary Beth Shaw stencil from Stencil Girl. I absolutely love her stencils, and this particular design, you'll see in my examples, I used a lot in this technique. I like it because it has really big sections. Okay, so we're going to turn it over. Oh, the tape flipped up. And I had both of these things soaking in that plastic shoe box there. They don't stick together. If they do, it's not a big deal. So I'm going to try to peel this off on the back again and see how it's not coming off like the other one. So this, I bet you this is an Oprah magazine, because it depends on the stencil the magazine image you use, how easily it comes off. But it doesn't matter. So the whole thing about stencil packing tape transfer, is that you got to be patient. You got to peel off the back. That's what soaking in the water does. You're going to peel off the magazine until you don't see any fiber anymore. Now this could take a while. Sometimes you have to soak it again. Try not to shake the table. One thing I find is if you get a little piece of it off, it kind of helps rub the other stuff off. Not sure why, but anyways, that helps. I could put this back in the container. So that does take a little while. So don't fret if it doesn't come off all in one piece. That's only if you're lucky, to be honest, because most of the time this is what you're going to do. And yes, it takes a little bit of energy, but I promise the results, the extra layer that this is going to add, the finishing layer, I like to say, that this is going to add to your project is going to be worth the time. So you can see right there, I'm working on it. You can work it right through. And you see the girl, let me see. See her face? That's my finger. Da, 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 da. So it remains translucent. So I'm not going to fight with that. Not that it's a fight, but I'm not going to work that and have you guys watch forever. So I'm just going to show you some examples. Darker images obviously have the most contrast, but it's fun to work with some light. So we'll go through some of the examples that I've done. This was a nail polish ad. I think it's an OPI nail polish ad. This one I love. Oh, let's turn so that we're not upside down here. So this was a very dark magazine image. Again, I strategically placed that opening towards her face. She has a purse there, but what I like is that you can still see everything through the stencil, even when it's dark. So, excuse me, not through the stencil, through the packing tape. So I really like how that turned out. This one was a fun one. So sometimes, depending on the magazine, you may not get your piece of tape all the way off without it ripping. Don't fret, don't freak out. It's absolutely awesome just to use a part of it. So if it rips, go with it. It's, you know, what I call a flopportunity. So here, it just happened to be, there is a woman there. I don't know if you can see her face. She's wearing a sweater with the pink on there and some pants. But even these random bits that rip off, I like to use them because it adds, again, that extra texture. This particular packing tape transfer was, I think it was from a Dutch Elle magazine maybe. Anyway, I specifically chose this page just for text. So don't even think that you have to use an image. Sometimes the text, just having that text is fun. This was white paper, so if you see the little bit of white, that's because I didn't completely scrub off all of the paper from the packing tape. So you can use a little bit on there, and it'll still be cool. That is not packing tape transfer. This happened to be another one. Now this was a very light. If you can see, it's right there. It was a face, I believe. It was a face, but it was completely skin tone, and I just put it over white. I'm still working on the layers on this. That's not one either. Alright, that's enough for that book. Here is the page that had the random fragments that ripped. This was the rest of it. I absolutely love how this turned out. And again, this is a darker image, darker magazine image that I used for that. But these are just random strips, you know, that ripped when I was pulling it off the stencil. So even if it rips, don't get worked up. You can, it'll still be cool. So this is, it's actually the stencil that I just used, but she has some eyelashes there. I don't know if you can see it, but again, this is a face. It was a darker image face on just a random background, but I love how awesome this looks. And even on the corner, you can see, or maybe you can't see, oh, there you go. There's some text through there as well, which I love. This is a negative that I added to my art journal. A negative or positive. This is the reject of what I did, and we're almost done. This is a tiger. I don't know if you can see him, but again, this is his beard. I don't know if you can see his eyes, but he ripped. So there's his nose. It's okay. I still like how it turned out. This one happens to be, again, a negative, or the relief. I don't know what, the leftover from a different page. More leftover. That was it for that one. I know we're almost done, my friends. This is the original one that I did, which has, let me see, I'll make sure we're upside down. We're not upside down. So these were 3 girls from some makeup ad, but I absolutely love, and this is perfect to show you. This is the top layer, so you can see how you can see the layers underneath the magazine images. So guys, I hope you try this. I thought real hard, and I've been perfecting it for a while, so I can't wait to see what you guys create with packing tape transfer through a stencil. If you have any questions, please leave them below, and I hope to see you guys soon. Much love.